superhero marriages, aren't they fun? Whenever a superhero gets married, it's not an atypical reaction to think, I wonder how long this one's actually gonna last. Or in the case of DC's Batman, for example, will the publisher ever let this hero get married? Probably not. Some fans still aren't over the upset that Tom King's run on Batman caused when he and Selina Kyle did not tie the knot. Spoilers, but you probably already heard about it. Regardless of all the feels that these legal bindings of superheroes and sometimes villains give us, there are still a slew of superhero marriages out there that have managed to genuinely shock us. So today we are counting them down with our aptly titled list, the top 10 superhero marriages you won't believe. Or will, but have totally forgotten about. These are all marriages that have some sort of what factor? In other words, they're marriages that are characterized as strange, illogical, or are just flat out absurd plot points with seemingly little sensible purpose. So with that in mind, let's get to our list. In at number 10, Cyclops and Madeline Pryor. Oh, this whole relationship between Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, aka Jean Grey's clone, is innately weird. Long story short, after one of the many times that Jean Grey was killed off, Scott Summers was grieving when, all of a sudden, he meets a woman who looks identical to Jean. If that wasn't strange enough, he's like, screw it, I'm gonna get together with her even though this is clearly a relationship built on a foundation of my own grief and denial. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. They get married, they have a kid, and Scott is forced to leave the X-Men. But if that was not bad enough, Scott actually ended up ditching his family altogether to rejoin the team, so yeah. And at number 9, Professor X and Lilandra. It's always a bit of a shock when a superhero falls in love with a supervillain, but it also makes for a juicy story. In some cases, that is. Now these two star-crossed lovers, as they're often referred to, are Charles Xavier of the X-Men and a princess of the Shi'ar Empire named Lilandra. She wasn't a villain at the time of the romance blossoming. Rather, the X-Men and Xavier would save her on Earth, with Lilandra later becoming the Empress of the Shi'ar Empire, taking Xavier as her consort. They had a big ol' wedding and everything, and things were genuinely going well for them. That is, until Cassandra Nova threw a wrench into their happily ever after. She took control over Xavier's body and used his telepathic abilities to take control of Lilandra, turning her into a villain and instigating a war. Yeah. And the cherry on top, Lilandra, once free of Nova's control, annulled her marriage to Xavier. Ouch. So no happily ever after all. Moving on to number 8, Doctor Strange and Clea. Doctor Strange may be a powerful sorcerer, but one of his biggest attacks on Dormammu didn't involve much magic. Or perhaps it did. The magic of love. I'm sorry. Jokes aside, this is what went down with Stephen Strange when the good doctor fell for Clea, who was the niece of one of Strange's biggest foes, Dormammu. Although Strange found it difficult to be the Sorcerer Supreme and maintain any kind of love life in general, he did manage to make it work with Clea for a while, with the two working together on many of his adventures. Clea would end up getting the throne to the Dark Dimension, and the two got hitched. But that unfortunately did not last. Dormammu returned, took back the throne, and Clea would become resentful, wanting to return to the Dark Dimension rather than live on Earth. So the two drifted and eventually separated. In at number 7, we're taking a look at an alternate universe for Black Widow and Iron Man. In the Ultimate Universe on Earth 1610, Black Widow and Iron Man are a couple. Now this pairing isn't exactly a full-blown marriage. It's an engagement, and things go downhill real quick. So let's jump back for a sec. Black Widow of 1610 is an alternate who is a former KGB spy, infamous for killing her ex-husbands. Already not looking great for Tony. She joins up with the Ultimates as part of their covert operations, and has cybernetic adjustments made to her body to give her enhanced abilities, or superpowers if you will. She gets romantically involved with the 1610 Tony Stark, who proposes to her. Here's that downhill part. She is later revealed to be a traitor, feeling that the US has made her home country and its people into a bunch of drug runners and prostitutes. It's revealed that Black Widow is responsible for a lot of terrible things that occurred within the Ultimates team. She killed Hawkeye's family, revealed Bruce Banner's identity to the public, which is kind of fine because the Hulk is a dick in this universe, framed Captain America as a traitor, and then tries to hold Stark as a hostage before he manages to get the upper hand on her. When she's in the hospital later, Hawkeye murders her out of revenge. Oh, and she released a sex tape of her and Stark getting it on. Very fitting for the Ultimate Universe, really. Moving back to the 616 for our number 6, Johnny Storm and Alicia Masters. So shacking up with an alien isn't all that absurd in the Marvel Universe. But often we forget that a member of the Fantastic Four married a Skrull. We're talking the Human Torch and Lyja, aka Alicia Masters. Johnny Storm has a reputation for being a bit of a womanizer, but he chose to settle down when he fell for Ben Grimm's former crush, Alicia Masters, who, surprise surprise, turned out to be a Skrull. And unfortunately for Johnny, she was trying to infiltrate and destroy the Fantastic Four team. She was eventually defeated, and the real Alicia returned, only to have her marriage with Storm annulled. Poor Human Torch. Up next at number 5, Bizarro and Lois. You could call this pairing rather bizarre. God, I am so sorry I had to. But that's the basis as to why this marriage ends up on our list. It's strange because it is quite literally bizarre, or rather, a union between two Bizarros. This all went down when Bizarro decided that he should kidnap the real Lois Lane in order to cure his loneliness. Oh, it's like Frankenstein's monster, guys. Using Lex Luthor's duplicator Ray, a Bizarro copy of Lois was made, and Bizarro was overjoyed. The two of them got married and started up a new planet called Bizarro World, eventually having a son in 1960 who went by the name of Baby Buster, but unfortunately looked human and was then exiled from Bizarro World because of it. At least they're happily in love. Up next at 4, Starlord and Shadow Cat. In more recent years, Kitty Pryde found herself traversing through space and encountering the Guardians of the Galaxy and Peter Quill. Kitty would inevitably join up with the team, and her and Quill began to bond, being the only two members on Earth in said team. Eventually that blossomed into a romance, and Peter proposed to her. At the time, he was given the throne of Spartax, and Kitty took over the Starlord mantle. That did not last long though. During a story arc where the Guardians were stranded on Earth, the two got into an argument that ended their relationship, and when the Guardians got their mitts on a new ship, Kitty decided to stay on Earth instead. What a breakup. Up next at number 3, some more DC coupling for you. We've got Donna Troy and Terry Long. Donna Troy and Terry Long are yet another couple that fall into the "that's just weird" category. At the time, Donna was one of the older members of the new Teen Titans team in the 1980s. Now, Donna had been attending college and fell for one of her professors, a dude named Terry Long, who was at least twice her age. So take that in for a second. A student-teacher relationship. Apparently no one objected, so the two got married despite him being creepy as f***. Eventually she got pregnant and things got even weirder. Long story short, no pun intended, Titans members from the future traveled back to the past to kill her unborn child, who would grow up to be a tyrant named Lord Chaos. Yeah, that sounds like a tyrant name if I ever heard one. Donna gave up her powers in order to prevent this from occurring. Oh, and meanwhile, Dick Grayson was sexually assaulted by one of those future Titans during all of this story, so Eventually Donna and Terry got a divorce, and he was later killed in a car accident along with their son. Killing off irrelevant characters, what fun. She would later beat the crap out of Terry when he was resurrected as a Black Lantern. Oh, Donna. You deserve better. Moving on to one of the weirder Marvel couplings out there, in at 2, Magneto and Rope. So if you're a fan of this channel, you've probably seen other lists of ours that take a look at this very odd pairing. Rogue and the X-Men's greatest antagonist, Magneto. They once romantically hooked up in the 616, although luckily that did not last long. But in an alternate universe, specifically the Age of Apocalypse timeline, the relationship did stick, and it turned into a marriage and kids, and it was weird. They ended up dying together at the end of the original Age of Apocalypse timeline story, so I guess we don't have to worry about seeing them play a match of tonsil hockey anytime soon. Ugh. If that grossed you out, oh, just wait till our number 1 spot. We have Lobo and One Excellente. I'm not even joking about this. So we saved the most absurd marriage for last. It's the binding of DC's most violent intergalactic bounty hunter and a sex offender in a trench coat with a limited vocabulary. And by limited vocabulary, I mean he only laughs and says his name. We're talking Lobo and One Excellente. Now for context, Excellente was a dude created in 1997 who first appeared in Hitman issue 18 and was part of a comedic relief superhero team called Six Pack. His superpower? Being a pervert. Actually, he would sneak up behind his foes and serve justice. It essentially came off as him sodomizing his enemies, obviously without consent, and they would often die due to injuries from that assault. So yeah, he is a superhero rapist. You can see why he hasn't showed up in DC's comics since the year 2000. And he has done some damage in the past too. It was once implied in the crossover JLA Hitman issue 1 that he drugged and sexually assaulted Kyle Rayner. Yeah. So clearly he is punching above his belt when it comes to marrying Lobo, who is obviously the better choice between the two if you had to pick between them and a gun was pointed to your head. So, how did this marriage occur? Lobo got into a brawl in a bar with the Section 8 team, which was derivative of Six Pack. So the group leader Tommy Monaghan came up with a scheme to put Lobo in his place. Lobo was drugged, knocked unconscious, and the group dressed him up in a tux and married him in Bueno. And they filmed it happening. Tommy then blackmailed Lobo with an order for him to leave the group alone, and it worked. And technically, they're still married to this very day. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other comic book marriages do you think are absolutely absurd? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts and feels. If you dug this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd if you haven't already. We'd love it if you stuck around some more. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.